Amazing. Welcome everyone to Weight Loss Demystified, the Masterclass. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to teach this. I'm just going to dive straight in because we've got a lot to get through. I think I'm anticipating it's going to be about 90 minutes, but I will try and keep it as short as I possibly can. So what you're going to learn over the next hour to 90 minutes, depending on what it is. So why restrictive diets lead to long-term weight gain in women. The 12 main factors that lead to unexplained weight gain in women is a little bit more, but I've kind of grouped stuff together. A deep dive into stress and weight gain specifically, because it's one of my favorite subjects to teach, and how you can live and eat to minimize stress hormone production to prevent weight gain. And if you came to my stress factor masterclass, you may be seeing a little bit of the same content towards the end there, so apologies for that. So my intention for you is you'll walk away ready to throw away everything you thought you knew about weight loss and feel armed to make changes today that will help you nourish your body to lasting weight loss with ease. So a little about me first. Sorry, I just took everyone's faces off so it didn't distract me, but now it's a bit weird not seeing your faces. So I'm going to put you back. So I'm a certified naturopathic nutritional therapist, nutritionist, life and mindset coach, master NLP practitioner, breathwork and meditation facilitator, eating disorders and obesity practitioner, and trauma-informed coach. Why is that important? I'm going to talk about it in a minute. So why nutritional therapy? So I studied nutrition back in, if you don't know my story, I studied nutrition back in 2005, and I kind of went down the dietetics route. And I was recovering from an eating disorder, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And I got my master's degree and went on to do my diploma in eating disorders and obesity. And I just realized I wasn't well enough to support people, and I walked away from nutrition completely, and I went into a marketing career. And then fast forward however many years later, and I kept having this niggle to go back and study nutrition again, but I knew that the first type of nutrition that I'd studied just wasn't in alignment with me. And bearing in mind, I studied back in like 2004, 5, 6. So it was a long time ago. Things may have changed, but it wasn't in alignment. And I discovered nutritional therapy. And I was like, oh my God, this is so up my street. So it is, so I'm just letting people in. Nutritional therapy is what we call the functional medicine model. So it looks at the body as interconnected. I'm just gonna mute, just in case that was going to come on then. We work with something called the functional medicine model. It sees the body as interconnected. So when we see it, we get a symptom in one area, it's usually coming from a root cause elsewhere. So my train of thoughts gone wrong, like letting people in. So the example I always give, if you've got a skin rash, rather than going to the doctor and them giving you a cream to put on the rash itself, I'm going, okay, why is this rash coming up through the skin? So I'm looking at gut health, I'm looking at liver detoxification, all the other detoxification pathways, these different things, food intolerances, everything like that. So I'm looking to get to that root cause. So we're not going to get that rash anymore. It's gone for good. Rather than putting this like band-aid on for short term, it'll clear it for a bit, then it's going to come back, because we've not treated the root cause. It's all about getting to that root cause. And nutritional therapy combines nutrition, lifestyle, and it's like supplements, targeted supplements. So we'll be using like targeted supplements, for example, to change biochemical pathways. So to get something going down a completely different one than the one is going down. Like it's a whole vibe. I love it. And then, so I started off as a nutritional therapist. So I launched my business as a nutritional therapist when I was on maternity leave, when I decided I didn't want to go back to that whole like super long hours in corporate marketing and stuff. But I fast decided that I wasn't able to help my clients as much as I really wanted to. So much of my healing had come from mindset work and using NLP, because we're just like walking 7-year-olds basically. So much of what we live out these days is like what our parents and our primary caregivers and schools and all these different people, how we were influenced by the media, the TV shows that we watched when we were growing up. All of these things have like created these beliefs in our subconscious. So we're walking around with all these beliefs. So many different, when I launched, I was working in fertility. So many of my fertility clients were coming through high achieving corporate boss babes, because that's what I was. And I'm going to come onto it, but I had hypothalamic amenorrhea for 17 years. So I lost my menstrual cycle. I thought I was infertile, right? I was actually just like a workaholic orthorexic. But anyway, so many of these people coming in, and it was like, well, they were completely stressing themselves out. The body didn't feel safe to fall pregnant, let alone like carry a pregnancy through. So I could only tell them so much, do so much with diet. Really, I needed to change their behavior. So I then decided I really want to go and study this stuff. So got my certification in this. And so what I'm actually doing with people then is like getting rid of their perfectionism, helping them like put better boundaries in place, helping them start to ask for help and delegate, all these different things that are causing their actual burnout. So tying that piece in. And then breathwork found me. So what I always say is like, we teach the tools that like are greatest on our healing journey. And like, it's why I think I will forever be studying, learning and adding more and more tools, because I spent a good, probably good 5 years doing mindset work. And then I discovered breath work, and I realized what breath work can then do. I mean, it's an incredible tool. Anyone who's in my spaces that does my breath work with me, like Leah can vouch for how transformational those sessions can be. But what we can do with breath work is we can clear subconscious blocks. So NLP is like working on the subconscious, but with breath work, we can clear subconscious blocks we don't even know what we've got. So we can clear things without knowing what they are. They can just get cleared because we're working on the energetic body. So basically what I do is I fuse all these different modalities, as well as obviously, you know, for obesity, eating disorders, these kind of things, I'm using practitioner skills from that. But anyway, so that's what I use. And how did I get into using it all? So I grew up, look at my mum, she's so hot. I grew up with a mum who was obsessed with calories, right? She was 1,200 calories all the time. She completely defined her worth on her size. And there's a little 10-year-old me in my little crop top and shorts. And I remember being so paranoid wearing those. I remember thinking I was so fat. I remember my brother telling me I look fat, all that kind of stuff. And and my brother was like a rake. He was like the stick insect. And I grew up thinking I was like, not like fat, but I thought I was, you know, I was a bit bigger, and I'm tall as well. I'm like 5'8" now. I was always tall. I was always put on the back row in photos at school because I was always on the back row with the boys because I was tall. I used to go dancing, and I was like one of the bigger girls, inverted commas. So all these tiny, weeny little ballet dancers. And I was this big, tall one at the back. I was always put at the back. Anyway, so I grew up thinking I was a little bit big. I went off to uni, and I just developed an eating disorder, right? So I'm just wondering where to go with this story. I'll just start with this, right? So I went to uni, life complete out of alignment, lots of different reasons for it, developed an eating disorder. I became anorexic for 5 years. And there is so much more to anorexia than wanting to be skinny. In fact, being skinny isn't really the primary aim for many people. For obviously, I've studied this now, so I can talk about it more. But what I didn't realize was happening at the time is my life just felt completely out of control. So I'd gone to university to study an engineering degree because my dad was an engineer, and I didn't think my dad loved me, and I thought he never wanted a girl. And there was so much to this story that like you don't need to know. But basically, I was trying to be like a boy. I was trying to get rid of my curves. I was trying to I was doing this engineering degree so I could get my dad's love and attention. And I felt like my life was out of control. So what they say in perfectionist, which I very much am, or recovering perfectionist, I'd like to say now, is when we feel like our life's out of control in other ways. I mean, it's the one thing we can control. So the one thing I could control is what was going in my mouth and how many calories I was burning. So I became anorexic for 5 years. And then I went to Australia, fell in love, all these amazing things started to recover. But what I didn't realize is in that recovery period, I actually became orthorexic. So I lost my menstrual cycle when I was anorexic, but then became highly orthorexic. So this obsession with healthy eating, obsession with everything being a healthy option, which, you know, we could argue is partly from the conditioning that I had from my mum growing up. And so my menstrual cycle never came back, and I was this high achieving boss babe, and I had the, you know, the huge career, the Range Rover Evoque company car, I had all the different things. And it was well, this is cool. I don't have a period. I don't have to worry about it. And I don't want kids anyway, because I'm the career girl. And I was like, this is me, like wasn't ever going to have kids. And then I turned 36. And I had gone back to study nutrition at this point, nutritional therapy at this point, because I was like doing this job and I wasn't like, there was something like missing. And I was like, kept having this call to go and study nutrition. So I was studying. And I remember being in like second year lectures and sitting in one lecture and be like, oh, okay. I've not got hypothalamic amenorrhea because I was anorexic. I've got hypothalamic amenorrhea because I get up at quarter to 5 in the morning. I have a coffee, then I do a 10K run. Then I don't eat until like 9:30, 10. I've just got cortisol running the show. I then like do these ridiculous 14-hour days. I'm getting home at like 7, 8, 9 p.m, having a bowl of crunchy nut cornflakes for my tea and not getting any sleep and all these other things, right? And I had all these crazy symptoms I just ignored. So I had horrendous acne all over my face. Sorry, guys, did not expect to talk about myself so much, but we'll just go with it. I had this acne, I had migraines, brain fog, horrendous night sweats where I literally got up and had to change all the covers like twice a night sometimes. Obviously didn't have my period. Anxiety, depression, would cry home, driving home from work every single night. Loved my job, but would cry driving home every single night. I'd had to wear sunglasses at night because the lights were blinding me, because my nervous system was so wrecked, it stopped responding to light. So my pupils weren't dilating and constricting. They were just open all the time. So light was blinding me. There's all these different things going on. And I had this like realization, I was like, oh shit, I've done this to myself. This isn't anorexia. This is like me being now. So I started to make these changes. And I also kind of had this thing of like, well, I'm 36. Do I really never want to have kids? Like, will I regret if I don't? And so anyway, it took me 9 months, but I got my cycle back after 9 months. And bearing in mind, I hadn't had it for like 17 years. I was pretty impressed with myself. And then I had 3 ovulatory cycles and then we fell pregnant. And while I was pregnant, this is when I realized I healed. This is when I realized I was never healthy. I obviously haven't got an in-between photo here. When I was pregnant, I put on 20 kilos, best 20 kilos of my life. And I completely relaxed around food. And then once I'd had my baby, I was like so chillaxed, like so relaxed. And however, I had him in 2018 and we're however many years on now, and I'm still the same. I stopped exercising when I was pregnant to start with because I was so blooming ill in the first few weeks. But then also, and I'd already completely changed my exercise, by the way. I totally stopped running. I was only doing weights and going on like do yoga and stuff. So I had completely changed my exercise to get my menstrual cycle back. But I completely stopped because, all right, I've got this exercise addiction and I really need to let it go. And to heal my exercise addiction, I stopped exercising. So I put on 20 kilos, stopped exercising, super relaxed with food, eating loads. But I was like back in all my old clothes in like 6 months. And it's like, okay, this doesn't make sense because I was wearing these clothes when I like was running 10K every single day. I was barely eating any food. Yeah, I'm like the same size, not exercising, eating all this food. Why is this happening? And then I started working with clients, fertility clients, right? So they'd come in and they'd say that they'd come for fertility, but then every single one, if it didn't say in the first session, it always by the second session, they were like, oh, by the way, Linda, I would quite like to lose a little bit of weight as well. Like every single one. And even the ones who like didn't specifically say it, they would just start losing weight. And it was like, okay, I'm losing weight. And people keep telling me I'm losing weight and I don't know why. And then I look back at it online because I kind of had this obsession with weight loss from like the calories in, calories out, right? I never really understood the biochemistry of it. So I'm like, this is really interesting, right? I'm getting everyone like really fertile and they're all losing weight. I lost all this weight for no reason. Why is this? So I then started to get really fascinated and learning it all. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. But what I was going to say is I'm going to tell you that in a minute. Let's keep going. So I specialize in women's health, full stop, right? So I work with people with loads of different reasons. So pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, menopause, gut health issues, brain fog, whatever. But weight loss is kind of like this consistent theme when I'm working with people. And so more recently, I'm going to keep going because I've kind of already said that. More recently, I've started working with people specifically for weight loss. So this is what I was going to say. I've had such a hesitancy to say I help people with weight loss because of my history with weight. And I wanted to launch this program. Literally, I wanted to launch this program in September 2020. And I was like, I can't add to the problem. I'm like, no, Linda, you spent all these years worrying about your weight. Like, don't go and add to the problem by telling people they need to lose weight. So I had such a resistance, and it was only in January this year I was like, I'm going to start saying, like, I help people with weight loss, because I was just getting so many people coming for it anyway. And the reason why I don't think I'm adding to the problem, the reason why I'm actually like, no, Linda, you need to do this because you're actually fixing the problem, is because people are living these restrictive lifestyles. They turn into like the shake diets, the calorie restriction, the over exercising. Like, I have people come to me going, I've gained weight, but haven't been exercising, so that's why. I'm like, no, that's not why. That's not why. I mean, I don't exercise. Am I gaining weight? So it's like all these different things, like counting macros, counting calories, all these different things. It's like, these aren't the reasons why women are gaining weight, and these aren't the solutions to people losing weight. So actually, you need to teach this, Linda, because what I want to do is give people their life back, right? This should be the headline: get your life back. And one of the reasons this has come about is because I kicked off with a new client in January, and I was actually talking to her, and I always come up in my initial session with the clients. It's like a 2-hour deep dive. And then I start telling them why what's happening is happening. And people always come off and go like, oh my God, I feel like I had the biology lesson I should have had like when I was 16, and like whatever they've come to me for, whether it's heavy periods or fertility or weight loss. And this client sat and was like, Linda, this is the education I needed when I was 16. She was like, if you told me this at 16, I wouldn't have just lost 22 years of my life being on diets. And it's like, I put something on my stories the other day. I was like, how much of your time do you think about food? Like, it used to consume all my time. It was like, well, consume food and weight. It was like, all right, I've got to get up. I need to like to get up at this time to be able to fit in my run before I need to leave for that. So it was like consciously planning my day around like how I could fit exercise in. Then it's like, right, we're going out for dinner, so I'm going to have a salad for my lunch because I might want to eat more when I go for dinner. Or I had a pudding last night, so I'm going to cut back my calories tomorrow. Like, I used to constantly think about it. And this is what people are doing. It's like, it's running their whole life. And it's like, this client was like, you've literally just given me my life back. And then I was telling her about the concept of this program, Nourished You, that she all now doing. And she was like, you have to do it. Because imagine if everybody knew this. Like, imagine if girls were taught at 16 that they shouldn't be like cutting calories and they just need healthy bodies. And when we have a healthy body, sorry, just get onto this. When we have a healthy body, the body knows how to burn fat as an energy source. So this is the problem. The body's got confused for all these different reasons we're going to come on to. And it's starting to store fat instead of burn it as an energy source. So all we need to do is train the body to burn fat as an energy source, which sounds easier than it is, but it kind of is easy. And then it's all good. Anyway, so for example, these are sort of people I've been working with recently. So 2021, this client came to me. She'd gained about 2.5 stone. She was experiencing significant gut issues, intense bloating to the extent she started to get stretch marks on her tummy like she was pregnant. She had low mood anxiety. She had really short fuse. She was having arguments all the time with her partner. She was really teary, really bad PMS, painful periods, androgenic symptoms as well, which I haven't put there. And she tried dieting and intense exercise and nothing was working. She was just gaining more and more weight. So what we actually did testing with her, we actually did a Dutch test and a gut test because she had money to splash and she wanted to know. But we ended up we found these things with her gut. We did a gut healing protocol. We restored a healthy microbiome. We supported her nervous system, stress levels, boundaries, all that kind of stuff. We lowered her androgens and estrogen. We raised her progesterone. We supported detoxification. We switched up her exercise, so she wasn't doing intense stuff anymore. And she was fitting back into her favorite dress that she hadn't worn for years in 2 months. As you'll see, nowhere there did I talk about we cut her calories, counted food groups, did any sort of restriction, right? Another example. By the way, I've changed the names of these people for privacy. Becky came to me after an ectopic pregnancy to support her fertility, but she also had like no energy. She had really bad anxiety, really bad PMS symptoms, this unexplained weight gain and chronic gut issues. So reflux, she'd been on PPIs for like 20 years. They're like acid reflux things, stomach pain, bloating, food sensitivities, all these different things. She had this fungal nail infection. She said, I get these the wrong way around, but she'd been on PPI. One of them was 15 years, one was 20 years. She'd had this fungal nail infection for whatever many years, 15 or 20 years. And that's a sign of candida overgrowth in tummy. So we did anti-candida protocol because candida makes us gain weight. Got off the PPI so we could increase the stomach acid. You're going to understand more of this in a minute. Balanced her hormones, improved her mitochondrial function. We did this oats test, which is a mitochondrial function, but you can support it without knowing your results. That impacts the body's ability to burn glucose, proteins, fats for energy. supported a circadian rhythm, and the weight literally just fell off. It wasn't even one of her primary goals. It was just like, it'd be nice to. She was one of the, it would be nice to. And then last one on this, Sally, sorry, I'm not like, I've just seen that. Okay. I just got a direct message there. Sally, so came to me after experiencing 2 stone of unexplained weight gain over 2 years. I felt exhausted, bloated, defeated. She couldn't fit into her clothes, avoided social events, and her relationship was struggling. She'd excluded bad things. In my world, there's no good and bad, by the way, but bad things like alcohol and chocolate, super restrictive with calories, low fat, low calorie sprays. Do you remember those low calorie? You might use them. Didn't have avocado because the fat, for example, she was exercising 6 days a week. Huge corporate boss babe, huge amounts of stress. And it was one of those things where it's just like, I'm doing everything right, but nothing's working. In her mind, it was like, I'm doing everything right, nothing's working. Well, first thing we do is get pooing every day, right? Because constipation leads to increasing toxic load in the body, which you can understand in a minute. Stress management, adrenal health, switched up a morning routine. So it wasn't like phone, emails first thing. We were doing like other stuff, increased her calories because she was eating too few, switched up her exercise. So she was doing more of the relaxing stuff instead of the stuff that was increasing cortisol levels, balanced estrogen and progesterone, supported detoxification. She lost 1.5 stone in 3 months by eating more and exercising less. So that's just a few examples. So let me know in the chat if some of this feels familiar. If you don't want to engage, don't worry. Let me just blow my nose because I am snotty as anything. So familiar. Good. Right. Okay. So let's start teaching you some stuff. So I've just said that. I've wanted to teach for so long. I've been scared because I didn't want people to think I was like telling them they need to lose weight, but I want to solve the problem. So I'm here to teach it. So if you don't already know, which I think everybody here does, I've created this 12-week program called Nourished You. We were supposed to start on Monday for logistical reasons. I've moved it to Thursday because there were so many bank holidays on Mondays during the time of the program. We've got the King's thing going on, plus the Easter bank holiday and the 2 May bank holidays. And it's like, I'd just rather have it on a day and it be a day. So I'm actually going to kick it off on Thursday next week now. And in this program, I'm going to be teaching you how to lose weight without restriction. So let's talk about why what we're taught doesn't work. So eat less, move more, right? If eat less, move more worked, it'd work. It doesn't work, does it? And if we do these calorie restrictive diets, basically what we end up doing is screwing with our metabolism. So when we start to eat more, we end up gaining more weight. So one of my clients said to me the other day, the thing I've realized is the only thing dieting has ever done for me is make me fat. That was literally her words, not my words. Her words. It's like, it's only ever made me fat. And it's true, right? Dieting isn't good for us. So what really leads to weight gain in women? So it's not about calories. It's about quality of calories. It's about nutrients, right? If calories made you fat, I would not get away with eating 2,500, 3,000 calories a day without gaining weight. But then that person with 1,200 calories is like gaining weight. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? It's not about calories. Calories, yeah, it's just, right, okay, let me just explain it to you really quickly. Calories were brought in the First World War when people were in concentration camps and they were literally dying. And it was like, how much do we need to keep these people alive? So firstly, this information is from like 100 years ago, when we didn't have all the toxic load that we have in the environment. People living very different lifestyles, all the different things. But it was literally like, what's the bare minimum? This is when we were working out like basal metabolic rate and stuff like this, right? So this was never designed to be rolled out to whole populations, like living active lives. This is people like lying concentration camps. So the calorie thing is like a bit of a myth. And I know we'll debunk it and Nourish You and explain it more. So it's more about what the quality of what we're eating, not the quantity. And one of the reasons for that is we can have a caloric rich diet, but a nutrient poor diet. And the body reads nutrients in the bloodstream. So you could be having 7,000 calories. Yeah, you could be having 7,000 calories. No, that's a really bad example, isn't it? Let's go with it. You have 7,000 calories, right? And if there's no nutrients in them, because it's like all processed food, your body reads starvation. So your body's going to like, oh my God, I'm starving. There's no nutrients in the body. I'm going to store fat. So you're kind of gaining the fat, not because of the calories, because of the nutrient deficiencies. I hope that made sense. We've got then insulin and blood sugar roller coaster. So insulin is a fat storing hormone. It's a brilliant hormone. It takes glucose out of the bloodstream. So glucose isn't damaging our cells and puts it away. But ultimately, it's a fat storing hormone. So we don't want insulin spiking every couple of hours and then dropping again, because every time it's spiking, it's telling your body to store fat. So what we want to do is manage our blood sugar. And we're going to talk about this today. We've then got real and perceived stress and adrenal health. And why I say real and perceived is your body responds to stress in the same way, whether it's a real stress or it's like an imaginary one. So if you're worrying about something that could possibly happen in the future but hasn't actually happened, your body's getting the same message as there's a tiger chasing you, run away now. It's the same thing. So stress is this huge thing. And we're all chronically like stressed, and our adrenals are struggling, and this has a knock-on effect. And this is the subject that we're going to go into more detail today. So I'm not going to speak too much there. Then we've got nutrient absorption and digestive health, right? So as I just said, our body's always reading our nutrient levels in the body. So if we've got nutrient deficiencies, it's going to think we're starving and hang on to body fat. Because historically, the reason we used to die was because of starvation. Like we used to have famines, floods, wars, food was scarce, and that was the main reason we used to die. Now we die because of overfeeding, because we have too much, we have the wrong stuff. And then that's causing all these like heart disease and all these different things that are killing us, right? So we don't die from starvation these days, but our bodies can be starving because we're not getting the nutrients we need. Now, firstly, we talked about nutrient deficient foods. The second reason is poor nutrient digestion and absorption. So low stomach acid means we're not going to break down our foods optimally and absorb them. So we're going to end up nutrient depleted. Inflammation in the gut, leaky gut, making things go into the bloodstream that should be there. Inflammation then leads us to weight gain. And another key area that comes up in digestive health is, constipation, diarrhea. We've talked about that as well. Well, we'll talk about it more in a minute. But the microbiome, right? So studies exist where they've done fecal implants. This is horrible, right? But they've taken the poo out of like obese people, like they've got these twins and they're doing these studies, and they've taken the poo out of an obese one and put it into a skinny person, and then done it the opposite way around. And the skinny person became obese and the obese person became skinny through this thing. Now, I know that sounds horrible, but the good news is we can fix our microbiome without having to do fecal implants. Then we've got sex hormone imbalances. So low testosterone, low progesterone, high estrogen, all linked to weight gain. And then we've got the changes that go on with perimenopause and menopause as well. So all of that stuff going on, sex hormone imbalances, are all going to impact our weight. Then eating, exercising, living in line with our menstrual cycle. So throughout our menstrual cycle, our insulin sensitivity changes. Our ability to, the types of exercise we should be doing at different times changes. The way we're going to respond to caffeine, for example, changes. So actually living in line with our menstrual cycle, we can actually optimize weight loss through aligning different strategies with that. Then we've got hunger hormones, leptin resistance, and circadian rhythm, right? So leptin is a hormone that's produced from body fat, and it basically communicates to the brain how much fat is on or in your body, so energy, is available for you at any time. And then what happens is that docks onto the hypothalamus, this message. I mean, it's doing it all the time, but then there's a significant message that happens overnight, about midnight-ish, onto the hypothalamus. It's like, tells the body how much to move and how much to eat and how fast your metabolism should be the next day based on what you've got available. Because this leptin hormone was very important when we were in famine, floods and wars and food was scarce, because it was like, okay, like lay still tomorrow, don't have any desire to move, and have a really slow metabolism tomorrow because we haven't got much on you at the moment, versus, whoa, there's loads, it's a good day to go out and do some hunting, do loads of what, do you know what I mean? Like it literally, it makes you more, it makes you desire to move more the next day, if that makes sense, right? So, but leptin, as are all the sex hormones as well, is really dependent on a healthy circadian rhythm. And what we've done in our modern world, we've wrecked our circadian rhythm. So there's this whole thing here that's really important. the mitochondria, right? So mitochondria, the energy factories of the cell, they're where we literally turn food we eat into energy. And so many of us have unhealthy mitochondria for lots of different reasons, which I teach in Nourished You. And then also, like, muscle mass is super important for this, because muscle holds the most mitochondria out of everything. So this is why, like, doing like long distance running isn't going to be as effective as just lifting weights, because firstly, long distance running is increasing your cortisol, which you're going to come on to learn tells the body to store fat. And then also it's cortisol's breaking down your muscles. You haven't got it. If you're building your muscle, which clearly I have zero muscle mass, but I am going to start exercising again this year. So one of my Q2 goals, I'm like, I feel like I'm over my exercise addiction enough after 6 years to like start exercising again, or 5 years, whatever it is. But anyway, so mitochondria, how well they're working. Are they even turning fat into an energy source for you, or is it not able to do it? Growth hormone deficiency, hypothyroid. I see subclinical hypothyroidism in high achieving women so much. And I'm going to talk about it a bit in the stress bit, but I think it's one of the most underdiagnosed things. And what it means by subclinical is it means your lab results aren't at a level where you're going to get given thyroxine, which is great because we don't want to be going down the medical route. But it does mean that things aren't working optimally. So we want to optimize them, because your thyroid is your metabolism. Like it's causing you to speed up or slow down, basically, and how fast you're burning your fat. So that's really important. Detoxification, one of the main things that I'm obsessed with. We live in such a toxic world. Just walking down the street, you've got like car fumes, thinking about all the makeup products we put on, perfume, skincare products, like literally if you're putting fake tan on every day, you're literally just like loading yourself with toxins. It's around 90%. Don't quote me on that, because people say different things, but about 90% of what you put on your skin gets absorbed into the body. So you put a load of toxins on your skin, they go into the bloodstream, they have to go to the liver to be detoxified. What happens is the liver gets overloaded, it can't deal with what's coming in. So we've got all these toxins going wrong around our body. So we've got, caffeine, medications, fumes, pesticides on our foods, whatever it is, air fresheners, whatever it is that we're breathing in, and then we're putting on our skin, it's going in. And so what the body does is like, can't deal with all of this. I'm going to store this away in body fat so it doesn't go and reach at my organs and damage them, like kill me, basically. So often one of the first things we need to do with people is get their detoxification pathways all working optimally, so that fat can safely let go of the toxins that it's storing and send them out, get them dealt with and out of the body. So that's a huge one. And then we've got mindset beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, and some subconscious blocks to releasing body fat, right? So many people I work with have got a subconscious block because their body fat is creating some kind of safety for them. So for example, common things that come up when I speak to people, either they were sexually abused when they were slimmer, and so they've gained weight as a protective mechanism, or they just got undesired attention in some way. So it was like they were like getting undesired male attention, for example, that they weren't comfortable with, or, something might have happened in the workplace where they had like a bit of a creepy boss. So they weren't actually sexually abused, but they might have had like this creepy boss, for example, or they were, bullied for being skinny, or something happened. There's usually something that's happened. Another one that I see is if they had parents that were like real feeders, and then maybe their relationship with their parents is a bit damaged now, or they've actually lost their parent, but the parent was a way of showing love, was like, feeding them, then they've taken that role on for themselves to give them that love. So it might be like, I'm gorging on loads of cake because that's like a way of showing love, for example. So there's all these different subconscious blocks. What we can do is we can, well, firstly, mindset beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, educate ourselves so we understand how the female body actually works. So we stop doing these ridiculous like shake diets and calorie restrictions and over-exercising, all these different things. I mean, it's the first basic thing. But then working through any subconscious blocks and creating new subconscious beliefs. So something I wanted to say actually was I say earlier, right? It's like, well, it's easy for you to say this, Linda, because you're tall and skinny, right? I am tall and skinny. But like everybody else, I went to uni and I piled on like 2 stone in my first term. Like, I'm not joking. I gained 2 stone in my first term. And that wasn't particularly because of a bad diet. That was me having, I don't know if anyone remembers Orange Reef, which was like a vodka orange drink. I used to go and sit in the student uni in the afternoon and have like a few of those with some extra vodka shots put in. And, my detoxification was absolutely wrecked. My hormones were over the place. All these different things were getting knock-on effects. It wasn't necessarily the diet. I don't think I actually particularly, I wasn't that person going on a night out and then having a kebab on the way home or anything like that. Mine was more like an alcohol thing. So yeah, if it was like if I'm slim because of being genetics, then I wouldn't have gained 2 stone when I went to uni. So I'm tall and skinny because it's become my identity. Because I was anorexic for so long, I just became the identity. Like I'm the skinny one, and actually had to do a load of work around like, who am I if I'm not just like the skinny one? But it doesn't surprise me that like weight loss, even though I have cake for pudding every single day, like you should come for spend a day in my house and see how much I eat. My husband actually refers to it as like, I can't handle a Linda portion tonight, because my meals are so big. I have such big meals, and we have cake every single night for pudding, every single night without fail. If there's no cake in the house, maybe we'll have some chocolate, but there's always something sweet. And it's like, well, I have a subconscious belief that I'm the skinny one. So do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm not saying that we should all be skinny ones. And don't become anorexic. But there you go. Anyway, so what to say is knowledge is power. When you know the why, it's easy to make the changes. But when we're stuck in this trap of false information and don't know the truth, we'll keep going back to these old habits that keep causing us to gain weight. So one of my clients, she like made me laugh so much because she was telling about some of the diets she'd been on, and she'd done like the clubs, the Weight Watchers, the Slimming Worlds. And one of them was like, bananas are this many points, but if you have it, no, bananas are free, but if you have them in a smoothie, they're 6 points. So she didn't have bananas in smoothies, right? But no reason for it. She was like, now I look back and I'm like, why was it 6 points in a smoothie? But I could have had it for free if it was a whole fruit. But it's just like, we just take on these ridiculous rules and we implement, and it's like 1,200 calories to lose weight and whatever it is, right? These foods are good. These foods are bad. And it's like, not in my world. So just quickly say that I don't do any restriction, as you probably guessed right now. And my programs are never about restriction. They're never about counting anything. They're never about restricting anything, because as a recovered anorexic, the first, like with an eating disorder person, like you can't do any restriction with them, like even cutting out gluten, unless I found out they were celiac, like you just can't do restriction because it brings back too many bad habits. So for me, in my world, we eat everything. And my approach is education. So you understand what's going on in your own body, and then you can choose to eat the way that you want. I'll teach you the nutrients that you need. I'll teach you the way of eating. But do you know what I mean? I just want to say that. So yeah, there's no restriction in my world. So today, right, let's dive in. We're going to talk specifically about stress because we're 45 minutes in. I haven't taught you anything yet. So apologies. Well, I kind of have, but you know what I mean. The banana's free, but mash is a sin. Oh my God. That's brilliant. I love it. Right. Which way did I just press that in that way? So let's talk about stress and weight gain, because it's one of the most prevalent things. Stress, detoxification, gut health issues, sex hormone imbalances are like the key ones that we'd start with these things, right? So your body is always trying to work out if you're safe. So it's identifying that biochemically, and it's identifying it emotionally. So it's looking, cortisol, adrenaline, everything that's going on biochemically. And then it's looking like, from an emotional perspective, like, are you like stressing out about what someone said to you or something like that? And so this is how we are designed to live, right? We are supposed to have a stress response because it keeps us alive. So what should happen is we have the sympathetic and we have the parasympathetic. Our sympathetics, our fight or flight. Our parasympathetic is our rest or digest. So we're supposed to have this response. Like, it's like, there's a tiger chasing you. Shit, get out of here, right? Run away, get away from your tiger. You feel safe again. The sympathetic system switches off and your parasympathetic comes back. This is how we should be living. The problem is, the body, like I said before, the body doesn't know the difference between real and perceived stress, right? So what happens now is we sit at our desks. We've got, shit, I've got a million emails to respond to. I've got this massive to-do list. I've got my boss telling me I haven't done this thing that I should have done. I've got this team member like playing up and doing whatever, and I need to go and deal with them. And I need to put that person on their first warning or whatever's going on in the workplace. Then we've got, family members, friends who are going through stuff, and like, we might be worried about them. Then we're worrying about money and this cost of living crisis that they keep telling us that we need to worry about. And then we've got, worrying, oh, I'm fat and I want to lose weight. We've got all these like thoughts going on. Oh my God, I've got some more wrinkles. Shall I go and get Botox? By the way, I don't have Botox. I don't have Botox. But anyway, so we've got all these things going on, right? And so we're constantly got stress hormones coming out. It's not just tigers anymore, like it's everything. And so often these days, we're therefore telling our body, unconsciously, we're telling our body we're unsafe, even though we're actually safe. Like we've never lived in safer times other than what's going on in Russia right now. And the headline I saw about him wanting to attack UK. But other than that, like we've never lived in safer times, right? We've got all these different things going on. And so what happens is, rather than being in this state, we're in this state. And we're in this chronic sympathetic kind of state. And we never like fully recover, right? So we've got these two stress hormones. We've got adrenaline. I call it the short-term stress hormone. It's the one that comes out fastest when we have a stress, and it signals to your body that your life is in danger. It's the fight, flight, freeze kind of response, right? And then we've got cortisol. Cortisol takes a bit longer to be produced. It's generally released 20 to 30 minutes after a stressful event. And it's that longer term stress hormone. That's when we haven't come back from that initial one, right? So say, for example, like we had to slam on our brakes really quickly because a car came out in front of us, but then like we got over it really fast and we're like, oh, nothing happened. And we've got over it really fast. Like adrenaline, good to go, gone, right? No cortisol kicks in. Say we slam off that brakes and then we're driving and we're like really like, oh my God, I nearly died. I nearly killed that person. And we keep thinking about it. Then the cortisol is going to kick in, right? So cortisol is more like your long-term stress hormone. And historically, it was only really produced chronically when there was a famine, a flood or war. And that meant the food was scarce. So cortisol has this daily rhythm. It gets us up and going in the morning and then it should drop off. But when it's like coming out all the time, that tells the body food is scarce because it's this is what it meant historically. And therefore, that's what it means now. So long-term stress causes weight gain directly because when we've got there's no food left in the world hormone going on, it's going to respond by hanging on to body fat because it wants to keep you alive, right? And body fat is like an energy source. It keeps it alive. And so what it does is it's like, right, I'm going to hang on to body fat around the torso, protecting my vital organs because my arms and legs aren't quite as important as my vital organs, right? So what will happen is if you've got skinny arms and legs, but you're hanging onto it around your tummy, for example, and maybe like your back and stuff, that's generally a bit of a cortisol kind of weight gain pattern. It's also going to break down muscle for energy because it's catabolic. So it breaks down our muscles. And yeah, I've just said that. So I'm like, right, so this is what happens, right? This is me when I was like this workaholic thingy girl, right? So I was slim, but I always had a bit like tummy around me. And it was like, but these skinny arms and legs, it's because I was running. So I was like constantly producing this cortisol. So it's like, well, I'm never going to get six packs because my cortisol is constantly telling me to hang on to that fat around my tummy, right? And it's also going to slow our metabolism down. And you're going to crave fast energy. So you're going to crave more like sugary stuff. You can also crave salty stuff as well. That's like a slightly different mechanism. But you end up then with this like stubborn weight, right? So that's how it's directly impacting your weight. But then it also indirectly leads you to gain weight as well. One of the ways is through its impact on sex hormones, sorry. So every month, whether you desire it or not, the whole point of the menstrual cycle is to help you feel pregnant, right? Whether you want it or not. So what's happening is we've got the different phases and we're building this uterine lining ready to implant a fertilized egg. So it builds and then it gets cushier and fluffier in the second half. And then we implant this egg. And if that doesn't happen, obviously, then we get this lining goes, we bleed, and then we start all over again. And what's happening is estrogen's like going up at the start to build this lining. And then once we ovulate, this egg turns into something called a corpus luteum. It's a temporary endocrine gland. It releases hormones. Where the egg came from, this corpus luteum then produces progesterone. So what should happen is we ovulate every cycle for one. That's the first thing we really want to happen. Because not everyone ovulates. Because you bleed doesn't mean that you've ovulated. So you want to ovulate. And then we want to produce this beautiful surge of progesterone. Now, progesterone, let me just double check because I think I talk about this. Yeah, okay. I do come on to talk about it, so I'll just go in the order that I put the slides. So you've got adrenaline communicating to every cell of your body that your life's in danger, and you've got cortisol communicating there's no food left in the world. So the body hears, well, not a great time to have a baby because there's this tiger chasing me and there's no food. This baby's going to die. So stress basically impacts our fertility, for one, but it also then impacts our menstrual cycle, because what happens is it's either going to stop ovulation completely, because you'll be like, let's just not bother. What's the point? Or you'll ovulate, but it'll just suppress your progesterone production. So you're not getting that beautiful raise. It might just like suppress it down here. And what can often happen is it ends up down here below estrogen, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a minute. So stress impacts progesterone production by suppressing ovulation and or suppressing progesterone from the corpus luteum after ovulation. And it also suppresses production from the adrenal glands themselves. So in estrogen's a bit of a random one, right? Estrogen, lots of different things make estrogen. Our bones make estrogen. Our body fat makes estrogen. So body fat itself is an endocrine gland and it's producing hormones. And we end up this like state of estrogen dominance because we have estrogens like this fat storing hormone. And then we store more fat, and then we've got more fat and it's producing more estrogen. So we end up this estrogen dominant state. And then we've got stress like kind of blocking this progesterone production. And yeah, sorry. So lots of different things produce estrogen. We've got xenoestrogens in the environment. I was just like, where the hell am I going with this? But progesterone, we've got the corpus luteum, we've got our adrenals. So we're like, if you're stressed, your adrenals aren't going to be producing it. And if you're stressed, you're not producing it for the corpus luteum. So we end up this state of like this estrogen dominance, right? So science, estrogen dominance, low progesterone, kind of interconnected, kind of can be different. But anyway, short luteal phase. So if your ovulation to get in your period is less than like 10 days or less, I kind of say 11 days or less, but 10 days or less, short luteal phase, might get spotting up to period. Insomnia, difficulty sleeping during the luteal phase, water retention and bloating. This is really important, right? Because progesterone is a diuretic. It helps us like get water out of the body. So when we're estrogen dominant, we tend to store more water. So we often feel like we've gained weight. We actually often feel like fatter, but it's actually more, it's not actually body fat, it's like this water retention. So we want progesterone to help us like pass that. PMS with anxiety or depression, mood swings, all these different things, right? So we've got all these different things, hot flashes, night sweats, migraines and headaches. They can happen around ovulation or your period. You've got all these different things going on when you've got low progesterone. The reason I put that there is just in case you like glance at it and like, oh, shit, I've got low progesterone. So we end up in this state of estrogen dominance. Estrogen's fat storing. Progesterone helps us burn fat for energy. By the way, estrogen in the right amounts will help you have a healthy body fat percentage. So please don't be scared of estrogen. It's really great. We want it. We just don't want it excessive amounts. So I've already just said that bit, right? And then for anyone who's watching this on the replay, because I don't think this is relevant for anyone here right now, but when we go through the perimenopause and menopause, what actually happens is we get this really big deficit in progesterone. So we talk a lot about like, oh, it's like we're not got estrogen, but actually estrogen's actually more like this. Like this is a better pattern of what really happens with estrogen. It's actually, it wildly fluctuates during the perimenopause, and then obviously it drops. But we get this much bigger decrease in progesterone levels in perimenopause than we do in menopause. So, and because we're so reliant on the adrenals, supporting ourselves through perimenopause and menopause, supporting the adrenal health, managing our stress levels, it's absolutely imperative. Like people jump on HRT with chronic stress. You're usually these high achieving business women who are having really, really bad menopause. Well, it's because they're chronic stress and they're not producing any progesterone. So it's no wonder. And like I say, we've got all these other ways of making estrogen in the body. So, if we're carrying more body fat, we're producing more of it anyway. We convert testosterone to estrogen. There's lots of different things going on. Bear with me. Sorry. I'm just getting messages and getting messages that I clearly didn't put the setting on where everyone's on mute when they join. So apologies for that if you've been hearing background noise. I can't hear it randomly. So sex hormones, that was a really quick overview of just like progesterone. This is specific to stress in these hormones, by the way. So in Nourished You, we do a whole week on sex hormones. I'm going to talk way more about the different sex hormone stuff, but we're specifically talking about stress today. And then we've got the stress and the thyroid, right? So I'm going to do a shorter version of this slide. Stress, adrenaline, speeds everything up, right? It's like, let's get away. Thyroid hormone speeds everything up. So when we've got a lot of stress, this is a link between stress and hypothyroidism. When we've got a lot of stress, the body's like, right, we need to slow you down. Like, you're going way too fast. So what it does is it's going to suppress like loads of different mechanisms. So it can suppress thyroid hormone production itself. It can also increase the production of something called reverse T3. T3 is your active thyroid hormone. It can increase reverse T3, and reverse T3 then attaches to T3 receptors and stops T3 attaching, and basically stops T3 doing its job. So reverse is like inactive T3, and it's like, I'm going to attach to T3, so stop it doing its job. Again, trying to slow you down. Then we've got like inflammatory markers that come out in this whole stress response. They can lower TSH. TSH signals the thyroid to make thyroid hormone. And estrogen dominance that we've just talked about, that can also suppress thyroid function, and progesterone supports it. So again, stress is then having all these knock-on effects on thyroid function. And then that's slowing our metabolism down. Feel free to screen grab this list so you can look at it later and see if hypothyroid is impacting you. But I generally say it's like basically slowing stuff down. So like feeling cold all the time, feeling cold to the bone, like having constipation, like it's tendency towards constipation rather than like diarrhea because stuff's slowing down. Losing the outer third of your eyebrow is like a really, I was about to say significant, but that's one that's like a strong association with thyroid. So if you like feel like you haven't got the outer third of your eyebrow, any kind of menstrual irregularities, this gradual weight gain for no reason, all these different things. So like I say, we can actually get subclinical. So we can be a state where our GP will look at test results and go, well, you've got healthy TSH, you've got healthy T4, which tends to be all they look at. But actually, from a functional medicine practitioner, that's actually not healthy because they're actually above range. But also you're getting all the symptoms of it. And it's like, well, if you're getting the symptoms of it, something's going on. It could be this high reverse T3, it could be XYZ. Then we've got stress in the gut, right? So stress completely messes up the gut. We've got this enteric nervous system that's always communicating, from the gut to the brain, and it's kind of going up between the two. But really, when you are in fight or flight, the last thing that your body's going to focus on is digesting and absorbing food. It like blood goes to arms and legs so you can run away. So your resources are taken away from digestive system, essentially arms and legs, you can run away. So what that does is it's going to alter your digestive secretions. So it's going to lower your stomach acid. So chronic stress lowers stomach acid. Short-term stress can increase it, but chronic stress is like lowers it. So then what happens is we're not breaking down and absorbing foods optimally. Remember what I said right at the start. Nutrient deficiencies in the blood signal food is scarce, even if you get loads of calories in. So low stomach acid alone, this is one of the main things I see in people, literally not getting the nutrients. So body thinks it's starving, so it's going to hang on to body fat. Then we've got creating constipation or diarrhea. So diarrhea means everything's going through really fast, you're not absorbing your nutrients. And constipation means it's your toxins, because your poo's like got toxins in it. Toxins are staying in your body, and then they get reabsorbed through the bowel wall, go back into circulation. Remember what I said before, when we've got too many toxins in the body, the liver can't keep up. We're not pooing it out. So like there's no way for it to get out. So it's like, okay, let's go and store those away in body fat so they don't go and damage our organs, right? So we've got that going on. Then we've got increased intestinal permeability, which leads to inflammation in the body. So really quickly on that. So intestinal permeability, leaky gut, basically the same thing. We just don't call it leaky gut, but intestinal permeability, that the reason that happens when we're stressed is because the body's like, okay, famine, flood or war, remember cortisol, famine, flood or war, there's no food left in the world. I need to get as many nutrients into the bloodstream as possible. I've got to make the most of everything I get. So what it does is it opens the gaps further in the intestinal wall. So whereas nutrients might pop through that, we're opening them up, which means like bigger things can get through that shouldn't be there. They can be like amino acid, like whole amino acids, or like peptides, like two amino acids together, undigested food that's getting through, like bacteria, viruses, different things. All these things can get through into the bloodstream. It shouldn't be there. The body's like, oh my God, this stuff's here I don't recognize. I'm going to like attack it. I'm going to get an immune response going. And that's basically what inflammation is. It's this chronic activated immune system response. Inflammation is then associated with weight gain. And then we've got, as I talked about before, we've got gut dysbiosis, we call it, an imbalance in the good and bad guys in the gut. One of them I specifically said, like one of my clients, candida is associated with weight gain. So that in its own, but then these imbalance, like we talked about the thing with the twins and the fecal implant, like if we've got more bad guys, so the bad guys like feeding on things like sugar, this imbalance can alone make us gain weight because the microbiome like helps us make energy. There's like a whole thing there. There's a whole thing. There's a reason why I spend a whole week on the gut in Nourished You, because there's a lot to talk about. But anyway, so all of this is going to make us gain weight, right? Screen grab this, look at it later, conscious of time, don't want to speak through it all, but lots of different signs that your gut is struggling and you need some support. And when I go through Nourished You, I taught you through signs and symptoms of each individual one. So I'll go, these are signs that you've got low stomach acid. This is signs you've got inflammation. So I'll be more specific, but this is just so you can get a feel for it. Stress and emotional eating. Don't need to say anything other than when we're stressed, I think we can all resonate. Sometimes we emotionally eat, right? Which isn't going to necessarily involve having like the healthiest things. And then we've got stress and sleep. So stress is like, sleep is so important for our health, full stop. And I can't list all the different ways that it can then like lead to us gaining weight here, because like we've got a little masterclass here. I'm trying to cover a lot, but stress can lead to us struggling to fall asleep, and it can lead to a struggle staying asleep. So you may go to bed and struggle to switch off, and you're there like you're that person that can't get themselves to sleep, or you may just be someone who naturally stays up late. Then you've got this dysregulated circadian rhythm. You've got this, what we call HPA axis dysfunction, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, adrenal axis dysfunction due to chronic stress. Everything's gone a bit wrong. And you get this second wind after 11 p.m. This is a sign of chronic stress, by the way, if you get a second wind after 11 p.m. Or you may be waking between 3 and 5 a.m. And that's from the TCM chart, that's like linked to like the adrenal time. So it's like if we're waking between 3 and 5, I often get people waking at 4, not being able to get back to sleep. That's a sign that stress is impacting you, right? So stress is impacting your sleep. Then you're tired. So you're using caffeine to get going in the morning. So caffeine leads to stress hormone production. So you're like running on stress hormones even more. Then using alcohol to switch off at night. And then that impacts your sleep. And then that puts pressure on detoxification, as does the caffeine. And it's this whole cycle. I also talked about the importance of leptin and the fact that we want that leptin signal, like that dock at midnight or roughly midnight to like happen. So that can, because that's going to impact our urge to move the next day, our metabolism the next day, how, what we're wanting to eat the next day. Poor sleep also leads to decreased insulin sensitivity, meaning we need more insulin to to get the message to put the glucose into the cells. So more insulin, more fat storing, right? And also craving more sugary foods. And it also messes sex hormone production, because there's a whole thing about circadian rhythm and sex hormone production that I won't go into. And it also impairs overnight gut healing. And we've just talked about gut health being really important as well. So just sleep alone, there's more to it, but stress impacts sleep, and then it have these knock-on effects. So that was kind of like a bit of like a real whistle stop tour into how stress can directly make us gain weight and indirectly make us gain weight. So what do we do about it? Oh, okay. Got another lovely slide for you to screen grab. So deeper look at, is stress impacting me? And one way we can look at that is, are my adrenals struggling? Because basically what happens is, like I talked about HPA axis dysfunction, there's different phases to this. People talk about adrenal fatigue, but that's like, it's really not that many people with adrenal fatigue, right? You can get a really long way without getting to adrenal fatigue. When you get to adrenal fatigue stage, you've stopped making cortisol. So we've got a different problem in that state, because cortisol is things that are making you gain weight, right? If you're adrenal fatigue, you're not making cortisol, that role isn't playing a role. However, having said that, cortisol is anti-inflammatory. So you are going to have increased inflammation, and that will be having an impact on weight gain. But yeah, these are signs that your adrenals are struggling. A really obvious one: can't get up and going in the morning without a cup of coffee. I've got an afternoon low between 3 and 4 p.m. You know, I feel like I'm not handling stress very well. I'm getting snappy and irritable towards my partner. You know, maybe struggle sleeping, different things like that. Okay, screen grab, feel free to look at it later. So getting to the root of stress hormone production, might even have a sip of water. So funny, I was just checking the time. I was doing this masterclass the other week, which a couple of the girls were here, and I was like going on, checking the time, going, oh, it's good, I'm 45 minutes in, and I got all my times wrong. And I thought that we'd done it in like 80 minutes. It was like 110 minutes. So I'm like, okay, what time did I start today? Okay, we're just over an hour in. So this is a quick reminder, right? This is what we want. This is where we tend to be. This is what we want. So what's causing this where we tend to be? So how each of us responds to stress is highly individualized, right? We're all affected by stress differently. We all find different things stressful, and we all have different stress tolerance levels. So what one person may experience as stress, another may not. So I used this example in Stress Factor Masterclass, and I said, I have a really high work stress tolerance, right? Which Leah will start laughing at me for being an out of alignment projector. But I have been conditioned very well by my father, who's also an out of alignment projector. Right. I have a really high stress tolerance for work, right? But I do not have a high stress tolerance for my husband not putting a kiss on the end of a text. Right. If he doesn't put a kiss on the end of a text, I freak out. My body is like fight or flight. He's going to divorce you. Right. Like that's literally where my body goes. But you could give me 17 different like projects to manage at the same time, and I'd be amazing. It's all good. Another person can find like stress, like work stress, right? Hyper stressful, for want of a better word, but they could have like 2 sick parents that they're looking after, 4 kids, and XYZ, and that bit doesn't stress them out, right? And that's so we're all different. So the first thing to really get clear on is working out what your biggest stresses are in your life. So what are the things that are giving you greatest stress? By the way, if you join Nourished You, you get instant access to the stress factor, which is this nearly 2-hour masterclass I talked about. It's already in the portal. So as soon as you sign up, it'll be there in the portal for you. And you get the masterclass, and then there's this huge journaling workbook with loads of stuff as well. So we can go deeper there. And the reason why I've given everyone free access is because it's obviously so important for weight. So we need to understand, firstly, what's stressing us out. Then we need to realize that so much of what is causing us stress isn't actually our stresses. It's like stuff that we've learned growing up, right? So for me, perfectionist, right? Workaholic. It was just because of the only way I got my dad's love, right? So the one day a year I used to get like positive reinforcement from my dad was when he went to parents' evening, and I got told how hardworking, how conscientious I was, and how I could do anything I want to do with my life, right? And it was like, and because he's an academic, he works at university, he's like, academic praise, Linda's amazing. And it was like my one day of the year. So I became this really hardworking, conscientious person who like always wanted to do her best, right? Is that really me? Well, I don't know, because I'm so bloody conditioned now. And I am a Virgo rising, so probably is a little bit of me, but also like this like obsession with like, always having to get really high grades at university. Like, I was never that person that'd be like, oh, I just need to get 40% to get through it. It's like, it had to be like 80, 90%. And it's like, so much of that has come from my dad. So much is like, my dad wants me to get that. Not necessarily, do I really want that? Is it going to change my life? I don't know. Not convinced it has. Anyway, so that's the first thing. It's just like actually some of our behaviors. So whether we're a people pleaser, whether we're the like, people become like the sporty one, and it's like sport becomes part of their identity. They might even enjoy it. They might still be doing it and not even be enjoying it. It's like it's something that their parents gave them praise for. So it's just something to think about. And one of the greatest challenges for us women is to feel enough just as we are without doing or achieving anything else, right? And this is one of the things I really worked on about 3 or 4 years ago. I am enough when, right? So in my house, if you watch TV, it was lazy, right? My dad would like, why are you being lazy? So we weren't really allowed to watch TV. Like we did watch a bit, but it was like, it had to be doing something. Even if it was reading a book was better than like doing nothing. So some part of my deconditioning is really being around, I'm enough when I lay on the sofa and I watch TV. Like I'm enough when I am out on a walk, not listening to a podcast, but instead just listening to the birds. Like I don't always have to be like learning all the time, whatever. So you can like in your own time, you can think about what you're driving your stress, and you can start to think about I am enough when. And when I was putting these slides together, I did a random thing, right? Because it wasn't supposed to be there, but I was like, everyone needs my self-worth bundle, like everyone, because it's so important and because it's so life-changing. And like Leah's nodding as Leah be like, I need to go back through your self-worth module. There's something about it. So I'm actually going to throw that in. It's not in the portal yet, so you won't get instant access to that, but I'm going to add that because it's so important. It's at the root of so many people's stress is not feeling worthy enough and feeling like we need to have more to be worthy of stuff. So that's got like 60-minute masterclass. It's got a 15-minute audio pep talk you can put on as you go for a walk. Or as you like making breakfast or whatever it is. It's got a 30-minute breathwork journal. Like, it's got loads of stuff in there. It's all the fun. It's all the fun, and journaling prompts, obviously. Drives the stress hormone production. So I'm just like, there's obviously loads, but I'm just going to put some like obvious ones, right? So we've got from the extreme of a genuine threat to your life, such as a car pulling out in front of you. And then we've got worrying, overanalyzing what other people think of us, worrying about the number of tasks we've got going on. So all this worrying. And then we don't delegate because we're too scared to ask for help. Because what if I ask for help and they say no? Then that means I'm not enough. So I'd rather just not ask for help, because then I can't get rejected, right? Through one of my root fears. Or thinking that you'll do it quicker or better yourself. So, well, I'll just do it myself because I'll get it done, right? I was talking to someone about this the other night. Like, I always do it with my husband. Like, I could ask him to help me make dinner tonight, but he's going to take an hour and a half and I'll take 30 minutes and I just want to eat. So I'll just get on with it myself. Worrying about everything. So worrying about finances, relationships, your workload, general persistent worrying about our physical appearance, worrying about our weight, worrying about our wrinkles, all the different things. Emails. You know, having these notifications on our phone all the time. Turn all your notifications off, please. Worrying about time. There's not enough time. There's not enough time. I'm running out of time. Like, again, another one of mine. This real fear of time, because I lost all my grandparents and like my auntie when I was really young. We don't have any other family. So it's like, sorry, I'm speaking really fast. I'm just like channeling now. So yeah, it's like me, mum, and my brother. And like, we've got no cousins. We've got no aunts and uncles, not grandparents. Like, everyone died. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm running out of time because you just die. So that's something else I had to work through. People pleasing, putting other people's needs above our own, and living out aligned with our values. Like, the values thing, I think, is massive, right? So, for example, like, if you like really value like learning and education, but your like partner resents you sitting in your studying, real life example here. And he wants you to spend time with him, for example, and then you're not doing what you actually want to be doing. Like, you're out of alignment with your values. Or say, for example, health is one of your main values, but again, it's like, well, you're making meals based on what they want to keep them happy. You're not actually having what you want. Like, you're not living life in line with values. So I really recommend everyone does like a values piece and work out what the main values are, and then try and like align your life to it. So important. I think I've said it again later. Feeling guilty about stuff, like someone texts you and it's like, oh my God, I haven't got back to them yet. And then you feel really guilty, and then that's stressing you out. Overdoing and not getting time and space to relax and fill your own cup. Perfectionism, being in constant contact. Because if you think like, what phones are doing, it's like hyper on all the time. Comparisonitis, like constantly comparing yourself to others. Working really long hours, obviously stressing us out. So we've got those like obvious things, but then these other things are also act and release stress and produce stress hormones in the body that you may not realize. So chemicals in our environment, so in our air, water, beauty products, household cleaners, they add to stress, and they actually lead to stress hormone production because they're these like foreign things that the body doesn't know what to do with. Certain forms of exercise, like I said, like long distance running, high intensity exercise, they're increasing cortisol. That's going to break down our muscles. It's going to like do all the different things. Sometimes you just need to switch to doing some yin yoga, and you'll actually start to see the weight drop off if stress and cortisol is like one of your root causes of weight gain. Poor sleep quality or not sleeping for long enough. Inflammation, that I just talked about. Nutritionally depleted food sources. So we're seeing like this starvation message in the body because the nutrients aren't in it, even though it's caloric rich. Alcohol, caffeine, although I never tell anyone to cut out alcohol and caffeine, by the way, I just limit. Deficiencies in nutrients required for the stress response itself, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and then imbalanced blood sugar, which I'm also going to talk about more in a minute. Thank you for bearing with me if you're still here. So this is my perception, right? Stress is really just fear, right? So it's fear of what could happen in the future. It's fear of like what others think of us. It's fear that we're not enough, and like we're not doing enough. Like, if I don't do this, then I won't have someone's love. Fear we won't like have or be something that we want. Fear that we're not liked or accepted, loved or appreciated, or feel that we'll like lose someone if we start to act differently. So this can be a big one with boundaries, right? We want to put boundaries in place, and it's like, well, I really want to put this boundary in place because this is having this impact on me. But if I stop doing this, then this person might reject me. So for example, with people like people pleasers, sorry, let me just check the chat. I'm going to read this in a minute. Okay, Amy's asked a question. She needs to rush off to work. Let me close that. Sorry, otherwise I'll get distracted. I'm going to read that in a minute though. boundaries, people pleasing, right? So if you're always the person that is there for people when they're struggling, right? And then you like put this boundary in place, like, I really need this weekend to myself to like refill my cup. And then it's like, oh, but then they message you about something. It's like, well, I feel like if I say I need this weekend to myself to refill my cup, they're going to stop being my friend, right? And then so we don't hold that. So I don't know where I was going with that, but you know what I mean? Hopefully that made sense, because I should have read that chat in between. Fear. It's all fear. I've talked about this. Honestly think that living out of alignment who we truly are, wearing these masks to like be the person we think our parents like want us to be, or to fit in with the group of friends that we're in, like ditch your friends, get new friends. Like one of my best recommendations, right? If you're being somebody that you're not really to be with your friendship group, like there's always more friends to be made. Like I'm queen of making new friends. And then also take on an identity. Leah's laughing because she knows. May also take an identity that we got love as a child, which I talked about, like the perfectionist, the people pleaser, the academic, the sporty one, whatever it is. And then also consider how work may be adding to your stress load. So how many hours are you working? How long are you commuting? Like I used to do crazy commutes. Like sometimes I would have to like commute 4 or 5 hours, one direction, and then like back to go and see my other team that I managed somewhere else. It was like ridiculous. You work in a toxic environment, like are there like bitchy people? Is your boss not treating you right? Like is the things about the environment that just aren't nice? Like do you work in an office that has no windows? I used to work in an office that had no windows. Like that is not healthy. Do you feel stressed at work? Do you take work home with you? Are you like straight on your emails as soon as you get home? You're like always like doing stuff. Do you struggle to switch off? Like what tools are you using to help you relax? Do you work through the night? So you do night shifts, are you messing up your circadian rhythm because of that? Obviously, if you are, and there's nothing you can do about it, then obviously you just need to take better care of yourself. Are you working evenings? Are you working weekends? Does work impact your food choices? So many of my high achieving women, it's like, well, I'm like in meetings back to back all day, so I'll just have something at my desk. And they're like doing it as they're typing. And they're not really taking a break to like get in parasympathetic state and eat, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Do you even enjoy your job, right? And does it align with your values? So like I always say, like I'm not averse to going back into marketing. Like one day I maybe like get sick of like sitting in this office every day talking to people on Zoom and decide I want to go back into a corporate job. Like I'm totally not against that. I used to absolutely love my job, but if I went back, I would very much make sure I was working in a place that was really aligned to my values. So for example, I would never go and work at a nutrition company that promoted any kind of calorie restriction or like had like fat burners in protein powders or anything like that, because it's so against what I believe in. So yeah, wild example, obviously, but you know, think about your values. And think about what the biggest stresses are in your life. If I haven't already told you to do that, which I think I probably did. So top tips for managing stress. And these are top. This is like, there's so many more, but just for the purposes of a really quick masterclass, which you may be thinking isn't quick, but for me, it's quick. These are some of my main things I would say. So consider when you stress, are you actually responding to something that's happened, or have you made a story up in your head? So have you made up a worst case scenario and you're responding to that worst case scenario? So, right, husband hasn't put a kiss on his text. Well, could that just be that he's actually on another call at the minute and he's trying to respond to me really quickly and he's just in work mode, so he's not even thinking about I'm in wife mode? Or is he actually going to divorce me? Well, it's probably the former, but like I'll jump to that other story. Do you know what I mean? So halt your thoughts as they run away with possible outcomes. Tony Robbins taught me this in 2017 or something, and it was one of the best things I ever heard, and I've loved it and tell everybody it since. See things for how they are, but not worse than they are, right? So like if things are rubbish, like be like, yeah, things are rubbish right now, like this is the situation as it is, but not things are rubbish and XYZ could also happen. Like it's just like, this is where we are right now. So stop imagining what could then happen, just deal with what's real. And learn to accept that you cannot control every situation. If something is stressing you out, ask yourself, what one next step can I do right now to resolve this? And take that next step now. And if there is no next step, then let it go, right? This has changed my life. And it's another one I tell my clients all the time. Like, what's one next step you can take right now? Because some might be like, well, there's nothing I can do right now because I'm waiting for so-and-so to come back to me on this. I'm like, cool. You've done all you can, chill out. go and watch a film, or whatever it is, go for a walk, go and play with your kids, whatever it is. What's one except, well, I could do this. Okay, go and do it then. Like, so just kind of think, is that if I've done everything in my power right now in this situation, or is there anything else? Like, if I've done everything in power, just like let it go. It's like, well, I've done everything I can right now. You know, I'm waiting for this. Can't do anything right now. Set better boundaries, delegate and ask for help. Replace words that create a heightened negative response with words that evoke a positive response. For example, instead of like, I'm nervous, like if you're getting a presentation and I'm like, I'm so nervous, I'm so nervous, and I'm like, I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. So start to do stuff like that. Like the power of the words is like insane. I always like laugh at my husband because if someone ever says like, how are you? Like he's always like, oh, not too bad, not too bad. And like, what's the brain hearing? It's word bad, right? The brain hears bad. I always, even if I'm having the shittest day, right? I've had like 2 hours sleep because my child's had me up all night, and then like XYZ's happened. If someone goes, how are you? I always go, yeah, really good. And it's just a conditioned thing. And I'm always like, yeah, I'm really good. And then I'll be like, am I really good? But yeah, it's just my response. So like, just use your language like to change how you feel. Change your perception. Like, do things like everything come to you as a stress? Like we all know the people like everything is stressful, like everything is stressful, or it's like, oh, that's an opportunity. Like even if it's something goes wrong, it's like, oh, that didn't go quite right. Well, this is an opportunity to do stuff differently, actually. Like, what's this? What is this? What's this doing for me? What is this doing for me? Like, I literally did this with Nourished You, right? Because like I'd had this in my head and I was like, oh, it's going to be a Monday. And then like these things are happening, Mondays weren't working. And then I had the like looking at this bank holiday stuff and like, okay, why is this happening for me? Why is this happening for me? Why? Because I really want to start on Monday. And I'm like, so ready to go on Monday. And it's like, Monday's not the right day. It needs to be Thursday. Like whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? That's a silly example. But yeah, why is this happening for me? Practice gratitude in everything you possibly can. Gratitude as soon as you wake in the morning, gratitude before bed, gratitude throughout the day. You can't feel stressed when you feel grateful for having running water, a bed to eat in, like all bed to sleep in, like food in your fridge, like these things other people don't have. Like we are so lucky in Western world. So be grateful. And I've said about 12 times now, align your life with your values. If you're out of alignment with your values, you're going to feel stressed all the time because you're living someone else's life, doing all different things, right? This is probably the bit that you actually joined for, eating for a dream health. Let me another quick sip. I think we'll be done 90 minutes. So, common mistakes, common dietary mistakes, I should have said. So, caffeine to wake. If you're in my world, you won't be doing this anymore anyway, because like I've already trained you. But caffeine to wake, coffee for breakfast, alcohol to relax, skipping breakfast or other meals to save calories, high carb, low protein, low healthy fats, and then lacking nutrients required for the support adrenal health. Okay, so I'm going to go more into this. So remember, cortisol is a fat storing hormone, right? So cortisol, okay, let's hang on to body fats to protect our vital organs. And cortisol and blood sugar have this intimate relationship. So when we're stressed, cortisol it signals the body to bring glucose out of storage and send it into the bloodstream. And it does this by releasing it, the stored glucose from liver and muscles. It breaks down your muscles for amino acids, which then get converted into glucose and used as an energy source in the body. And it decreases insulin sensitivity so that cells are less responsive to insulin's effects, leaving more glucose in the bloodstream rather than like taking it into cells, which we don't want, right? Because that glucose damages our blood cells. So hypoglycemia, so when our blood sugar is low, that causes the release of cortisol because cortisol is then going to help us raise our blood sugar. So what we really want, I don't have to do these slides in the right order now I think about it, but never mind, we'll just go with it. What happens is if we eat in a way, so when we wake in the morning, right, our blood sugar's down here, right? Now, if we didn't eat breakfast at all, it comes all the way down here, right? Until we eat. But basically, assume we've eaten breakfast, but we've had like, for example, a piece of toast and a cup of coffee. It's going to come up here, right? Insulin's going to spike. Then it's going to crash. Then you're going to be like, oh, I need something sweet because I'm really, really hungry. So I'm going to grab a chocolate biscuit and a cup of tea. And then it's going to spike and it's going to crash. And then it's like, right, I'm going to have a sandwich with like one piece of ham and some cucumber on it for my lunch. So it's going to spike and it's going to crash. And we end up on this roller coaster all day, right? And then we'll have like some pasta or a pizza for tea. And it's like this predominant carbohydrate diet. Now, I do not recommend removing carbs. I am not anti-carbs whatsoever, but it's just this predominant carbohydrate diet. Even if it was like oats for breakfast, a salad with chickpeas and some couscous for lunch, and then, try to think of something healthy. I don't know, some healthy pasta thing for tea, right? There's still predominantly carbohydrate meals, right? What we really want is this effect throughout the day. So we're not getting this constant insulin telling us that we need to store fat, and these drops that lead to sugar cravings. So then we're grabbing like caffeine and sugar, which is then causing another one, right? So we want this effect throughout the day. Let me just see what I've written next. Yeah, because when we have constant insulin and cortisol, we're going to do that. I'm going to come back to that graph, right? Let me just bear with me. So I'll go through the 10 things. Probably put that graph in the wrong place. Bear with me. First thing, right? If you don't do anything else that I tell you to do, eat in a parasympathetic state. It's the most important thing you can possibly do for your health, for nutrient absorption, for all the different things. Because like we say, if we're in sympathetic state, if we're in fight or flight, if we're doing it as we're messaging emails and stuff, our blood's not in our stomach. It's not breaking anything down. Your stomach acid is suppressed. You're not producing pancreatic enzymes. You've got inflammation, all the different things. So the one thing to do, well, loads of different things, but the first thing to do is stop, create time and space, and then breathe into your belly before you eat. So like 5 really big, like belly breaths, like, because when we're up here, we're breathing up here. That's like fight and flight. That's sympathetic. That's like run away. So when breathing into our belly, that's the signal to like, you're safe. It's safe. So 5 really deep and with a longer exhale, ideally in for 4 and out for 8. That, again, that longer exhale is like an extra, like, okay, I'm safe. At least 5 of those. If you can do 10. Other things that like really help with like digestion, just like as a little extra tips, I would be like preparing your own meal from scratch, like increasing stomach acid, like avoiding water before and after meals, like there's some other things like that. But getting in the parasympathetic state is my number 1 tip when we're thinking about stress specifically. Obviously in the digestive health week in Nourished You, I'll go more into it. Then we want to balance our blood sugar. So we just talked about this, right? This. So starting with breakfast. So intermittent fasting. Big fan of intermittent fasting or time-restricted feeding. The way it's taught is totally wrong. What you want to be doing is having your last meal like 3 hours before bed and then eating within an hour of waking. That is the best thing for women's hormones, for women's weight. When we wake after an overnight fast, because we all fast overnight, right? Unless you're getting up and you're doing night eating, our blood sugar's low. So if we don't eat to get our blood sugar up, because our body wants it to get it up, it's going to shoot out even more cortisol. So if you're chronically stressed, the last thing you want to do is start getting more and more cortisol pumping out. Remember that cortisol is making you hang on to body fat around your torso and your organs and everything. So the first thing we want to do is like start to train cortisol to follow the right pattern each day and not just be chronically pumped out. So eating breakfast takes that pressure off the adrenals. It's not making you create that cortisol, and we're like balancing our blood sugar. And how we balance our blood sugar at the start of the day helps to feed in how we balance it the rest of the day. If you start without like skipping, you start with a coffee, that's going to pump out the cortisol, by the way. You pump out cortisol, that cortisol is going to make a load of stored glucose come out from storage. So your blood sugar is going to spike along with the cortisol, and then it's going to crash, right? So if you ever have like a coffee and then you're starving 30 minutes later, that's the coffee effect. That's what it's doing. It's like making cortisol go up. So it's making insulin go up, or blood glucose go up. Insulin goes up, takes it out really quickly. And it's a whole roller coaster. So we need to eat breakfast. And we want to make it so it's like got some, like, it's not just pure carb. So you don't have to have like eggs. You don't have to make something really pretty, but you do want like whatever you have. Like eggs are just quick, so I recommend them quite a lot. You could have tin sardines. You could have tin mackerel. You could have porridge with like some Greek yogurt and loads of nuts and seeds, or that chia seeds and stuff like that. And like there's loads of different things you can do, but you want to balance that blood sugar first thing in the morning, and then you want to. So we have and sorry, I didn't explain this at all, but hopefully you guys get it. Because when we have healthy protein and healthy fats, it slows that absorption, then it slows the insulin, because they take longer to break down. They're broken down further through the digestive process. There's like a lot to it. So making sure you've got healthy protein, healthy fats, and then also like fiber is like a nice way to slow that blood sugar response. So you want to have breakfast within an hour of waking. When we go into sex hormone stuff, you're going to understand this even more because it's really, really important for sex hormones as well. And then you want to keep doing it throughout the day. So you want to be having that sort of meal. So instead of like that, just that, pasta, if you are having pasta, make sure you've got a load of protein in it. Make sure you've got a side of some kind of like, some asparagus or spinach or something on the side that's going to have, a bit more fiber in it. I really like, I'm going to say it in a minute. If you're going to have sweet stuff, have it as dessert, not a snack, because you'll be having it straight after a meal. It's going to stop that spike and drop. Whereas if you had it its own, it's going to have this spike and drop, right? And you're going to have this huge insulin response and you can have this fat storage message. So I'm a big fan of cake, as you know, as I've talked about a million times, but eat your meal and have it straight afterwards. Or just have a couple of squares of dark chocolate. If you find you go snacking later, like have that sweet hit with a couple of squares of dark chocolate. If you don't have a sweet tooth, don't start eating cake for the fun of it, obviously. But if you do want it, I encourage it. So have that straight after a meal. And then I'm a big fan of, this was about to say, 3 good sized meals a day that keep you full for 4 to 5 hours. So if you feel like you're getting hungry after like 3 hours, then for me, I don't think you're eating enough in that meal. Like you need to add more protein in, you need to add more healthy fat. Unless you have adrenal fatigue, right? And so adrenal fatigue, as I said, is where you've stopped making cortisol. So if you have adrenal fatigue, you're probably craving sugar all day long because cortisol isn't doing its job. It's not balancing your blood sugar for you. So if you have sugar cravings from morning till night, if you have this relentless fatigue, you've got achy joints, like brain fog, all these different like achy joints because of the increased inflammation, brain fog because of the increased inflammation, like you've probably not got periods because your sex hormone production is totally shut down. Or if you have, you might have like a, half a day bleed, one day bleed or something, like really like barely needing to use anything because it's probably like low estrogen picture. So, I mean, that's not diagnostic, but just generally. So yeah, if you're at that stage, adrenal fatigue stage, which you can find out if you test your adrenals, you need to strategically snack because you've not got cortisol managing blood sugar. So, but for everyone else, and not many people are at adrenal fatigue stage, everyone else, try and make your meals really filling. And the reason why I like that gap is because that gives our gut time to clean up stuff in between meals, right? Because what happens is there's something called the migrating motor complex that kicks in and goes and clears stuff out once everything's empty. But if you keep snacking too regularly, that never gets to do its job. And then what we can do is we can get overgrowth of different like bacteria in places in the gut that they shouldn't be. Like we get things like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and we just end up a bit mess. We get more dysbiosis and stuff. So, and we know that allows us to gain weight, to weight gain. So yeah, that's my preferred pattern of eating. Last meal 3 hours before bed, first meal 1 hour after waking, or earlier if you're hungry as soon as you wake. If you are not hungry, if you're like, oh no, I can't eat breakfast, Linda, because I'm not hungry until 11 o'clock, that means you're running on stress hormones. We should be hungry in the morning. So if you're running on stress hormones, even more reason to implement these practices. So we want healthy protein, healthy fats and fiber in each meal. Another reason why we want healthy fats other than just balancing our blood sugar is omega-3 specifically have been shown to support the stress response and reduce our perception of stress and reduce anxiety and depression. So omega-3 fats would be our healthy oily fish. And when I say healthy oily fish, it's smaller ones. I call them smash fish, sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon and herring. I don't know if I did that in the right order. We don't want big oily fish because our oceans are really polluted these days. And so toxins get stored in the fat of those bigger fish. So there's obviously less of those toxins. And for that reason, I'm not a big fan of having it every day either. Like I'm like 2 portions a week is fine. Like have 2 portions a week. I'm actually more of a fan of getting a really good quality fish oil that's been cleansed of all toxins. But yeah, a couple of portions of those or a really good quality fish oil. And then your plant-based ones are your chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, and hemp seeds. But we don't get as much of the end ingredient that's the anti-inflammatory bit from those. So I do prefer a fish oil. But if you are vegan, then that's what you can do. You can get like a good quality vegan supplement as well. Also, omega-3, sorry, I should have said, like if you're getting organic pasture-raised red meats or organic eggs. They're higher in omega-3 as well, because the pasture-raised cows, because grains are richer in omega-6. If cows are just like given, you know, the ones that are like just as standard cows that are like given grains and they don't move, they've got no muscle tone and stuff, that's not as healthy as having like pasture raised. They're moving around, they've got more muscle, and they're eating grass, and that's richer in omega-3. So that's that. And then, yeah, organic eggs. Healthy protein. We also need protein to make adrenaline and dopamine. So, well, we need protein to make everything. But if you have, like, I describe it as not feeling pleasure from normally pleasurable activities. If you've got no like motivation and drive and stuff like that, that can be a sign of low dopamine. And that can happen because your body is focused on using the raw ingredients that make dopamine for adrenaline instead. So like it actually goes through a conversion pathway from dopamine to adrenaline. So it's like actually still getting converted to adrenaline. So we want like nice amino acids and obviously good stomach acid to break down the protein to get those amino acids. And so we need to manage our stress to get the raw ingredients to make it. There you go. That's what I was trying to say. Right. Caffeine after breakfast. It's going to change your life because caffeine acts as a stressor in the body and it raises adrenaline and cortisol. And then we're going to get this cortisol rise, and then we're going to get this insulin rise, and then we're going to get this crash. So I recommend having it like not with breakfast, because caffeine actually depletes the absorption of certain nutrients, including vitamin C. So I'd recommend it having like after breakfast, like half an hour or so. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. And I also recommend like adding a little bit of coconut oil and some collagen as well, and limit to 1 to 2 cups a day. I just recently started working with a client who's having 6 cups a day. She's literally running on stress hormones, and try not to have it after midday because it impacts your sleep. Can I just say, sorry, this came to me, just another really quick one on calories, that like the amount of calories in a food isn't necessarily the amount of calories we extract. So the reason I just said that is because like when people say, oh, putting coconut oil in like that, and then like you're adding fat to it and it's just going to make me fat, but it isn't, because we need fat to make our hormones. And then when we've got healthier hormones, you're going to burn your fat better anyway. But the reason I just said this as well is, so one of this client, this 6 coffees a day, like she was highly constipated, and I told her to try this thing where you have like a couple of tablespoons of soaked flax seeds and you have them first thing in the morning. It's like this gelatinous substance. But she's been counting calories for a really long time. And she's literally counting everything. And I was like, don't freak out. Don't look at don't put the calories of 2 tablespoons of flaxseed in your calorie tracker that you're using, because you are not extracting any basically of those calories from that flaxseed. It's just going to go straight through you and move stuff out. So that's the other thing. When you're having nuts and seeds, like this whole thing about like, oh, nuts are really caloric. How much are you chewing that nut to get all of those nutrients out of that nut? Like a lot of that nut is actually just being used as like to feed the microbiome and to actually pass stuff out. Like if you have a lot of nuts, you'll probably notice you go to the toilet better, unless you respond really badly to gut nuts, and they give you gut problems, by the way. But anyway, just wanted to say that. Did I just say that one? Yeah, was that just caffeine? Yes. Boost magnesium. Generally, everyone in the world is magnesium deficient. I think the proper stat's like 60%. I think it's probably 100%, because magnesium is really depleted in our soils these days. And magnesium is needed for like over 300 biochemical reactions in the body. It's like needed for energy production. So I'm going to talk to you about mitochondrial health and stuff in Nourished You, and the importance of that for like producing energy and then like using fat and stuff. But like we need it for energy, but we also need it for the stress response, and we need it for relaxation and sleep and all the different things. And so many of us are depleted. I really recommend that, you know, I'm not really allowed to tell people to supplement without seeing them one-to-one, but magnesium is one I'm pretty much like, I think everybody should have magnesium. Like, just think everyone. There's different forms. So if you're a bit constipated, you can look for a citrate form. If you struggle sleeping, you can look for a glycinate form or a bisglycinate form. I actually have in my link in bio, I have a link to supplement recommendations. If you're in the UK, I mean, you can pretty much get shipped worldwide, but the shipping probably makes it not worthwhile for you. But yeah, if you're in the UK or even Europe, like you can shop through that link as well. But yeah, I kind of pretty much recommend everyone has a magnesium supplement, if I'm honest with you. But otherwise, Google magnesium rich sources on the internet, some like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds and stuff. You'll get some tips. B vitamins. So B vitamins are also massively depleted in the stress response. They're also really important for detoxification, right? So for a weight loss, B vitamins are like superfoods. So B vitamins, like your green leafy veg, like your asparagus, your like cabbage leaves, like spinach, rocket, like whatever it is. If it's green, that's kind of what we mean by green leafy veg. Super, super important. Also, like really good quality meats are also great for like other types of, there's loads of different B vitamins, B1, B2, B3, B9, B6, all the different things. But yeah, they're depleted in chronic stress. So we really want those B vitamins. It can decrease our perceived stress. It can help with the stress response itself and help to improve our mood. And then vitamin C, another one really depleted with chronic stress. Another one that I personally think is a bit depleted in our food sources these days. There's loads and loads of different, like it's not just citrus fruits. It's like Brussels sprouts, for example, broccoli, really great, like those green ones. Orange, red, yellow. These are all really rich in vitamin C. So berries, like grab some frozen strawberries or frozen blueberries, for example, and add them into your porridge or into a chia pudding or something like that. Like really great in vitamin C. But vitamin C is also really important for progesterone production. So it has this double effect of like, it helps with the stress response. It's also increasing our progesterone. It's also really important for the immune system, which gets depleted with stress. So vitamin C, loads of food sources. You may want to take 1,000 milligrams a day. Don't quote me on that. You do wee out vitamin C when you don't store it, by the way. So you kind of, yeah, you wee out if you don't need it. And then Soleil water. So there's a lot of like these fancy mineral brands that you can add to water these days. I'm kind of like, if you want to, you can, but you really don't need to. You can just have a little bit of salt water. And that's got like pink Himalayan salt water or Celtic sea salt water. They've got like 84 different essential minerals. Just adding a little like quarter to like a third of a teaspoon to like some hot water in the morning when you first wake up, I really like. The fancy version is Soleil water, which basically means like you saturate water. So you put this water into the bottom of this container and then it becomes totally saturated. I used to kind of like go with that. These days I'm just adding a bit of salt water. But sorry, yeah, really, really rich in minerals, and they're needed for the stress response. And then this isn't a dietary one, but I was like, it's so important, like sleep. Sleep is when the body rests and repairs. And we talked about earlier, if you're struggling to fall asleep, you're struggling to stay asleep, if you're waking between 3 and 5, if you're getting a second wind after 11, they're all signs that your adrenals are struggling. So sleep. Okay, so there's 10 things you can really easily implement today. So you now know the long-term weight loss isn't about eat less, move more. The different factors that impact unexplained weight gain in women, how chronic stress leads to unexplained weight gain in women, some of the greatest drivers of stress hormone production, obviously there's a lot more, which drivers are impacting you the most, and 10 simple changes you can make today to start to support your adrenals better. So that brings me on to talk to you a little bit more. I'm not going to talk to you much about Nourished You. All I'm going to say is do it. It's going to be incredible. It's 12 weeks. It is like this on steroids. I'm going to go through all of the different areas in the order of importance of what leads to this unexplained weight gain in women. It's going to fuse nutritional therapy, subconscious beliefs, NLP stuff, and breath work, because we're going to work on the subconscious body as well as the actual physical body, and we're going to work on mindset stuff. So we're going to work at it all. We have got 2 epic guest experts coming in. One of them, Chloe Stickings, is doing a lymphatics for weight loss education. So I'm going to teach detoxification separately. Then she's going to come and do lymphatics specifically. And we're going to do like a gut lymphatics thing to help really reduce weight on the tummy. And then we've also got my friend Logan, who started off with like Beachbody stuff, and she did like that whole multi-level marketing. And she had this like really negative association with her body. And she kind of got the body, but then was really unhappy still. And she's really into like body love, but also like really into womb work. So our connection to our feminine body, because like I find a lot of us like really repress the feminine, and we can do that in different ways, by either holding on to more weight or by not allowing us to gain weight, because it's like it almost doesn't feel safe to be a woman in this world, because there's so much like in society that's telling us it's not safe to be a woman. So we're going to do a lot of stuff around like separate to the subconscious work I'm going to do with you guys. We're going to do some specific connecting to the womb stuff, which is going to be amazing. It is going to be 12 weeks. This order may slightly change, but this is roughly kind of what it is. We're going to have like a kickoff with like the basics, but it's me, so it's like advanced, the basics for women's weight loss. But this is really just to get you going, like week 1. So it's like some of the stuff I'll tell you to do, you'll understand more as we go through the program. But I just want to set you off with the best possible chance of losing weight as quickly as you possibly can, basically. So we're going to set off with the basics, and then we're going to go into like more specific subjects that will go into more detail. So we'll do a version of like today in a lot more detail. Like I say, you'll get instant access to the other thing as well. Gut health, we're going to do this subconscious work, we're going to do detoxification, we're going to do the lymphatics. We're going to do sex hormone imbalances. I'm going to teach you how to work in alignment with your menstrual cycle, with your insulin sensitivity, and how to exercise different times, all the different things. Got our body, love, and womb connection with Logan. Then we've got hunger hormones, leptin resistance, circadian rhythm stuff, mitochondrial function, optimizing metabolism, and thyroid hormones. So it's super, super in depth, super. How exciting! I was just checking what that said. Super detailed. Don't know what I'm saying. What else was going to say there? There's 3 tiers. So there is literally something for every single price point. So you can get the standard package and do the 3-part payment plan, and it's like 100 and something a month for 3 months. And right up to platinum, that includes like access, one-to-one access to me as well. So you've got the standard package. It's a 12-week program, and it's lifetime access to it all. So you can go back through it as many times as you want. You get the masterclasses, you get PDF workbooks, you get like handouts basically of the scripts that we talk through when we're together, so that you've got everything in written form, so you don't have to make a ton of notes and make it really easy for you. So standard package is the program, lifetime access. Then the VIP package includes a Voxer support group for community and connection. So we've currently got 9 VIPs in there. So that means that you get to make friends with people on the way. You can share your wins. You've got this place to have like community and connection in there. And obviously I'm in there to ask you questions between calls as well. And then a platinum version is like everything including VIP plus one-to-ones with me. So like a 2-hour kickoff and then catch-ups. What was I going to say then? Oh yeah, and there's a whole load of bonuses, right? So there is the stress factor bundle. As soon as you sign up, you will have access to that. That's in the teaching portal already. The self-worth bundle is going to get thrown in. I will get that in there ASAP. I might drop it in the adrenal health week. I'll decide what I'm going to do with that, but that's going to go in there. Tomorrow night, we've currently got a early bird offer on Supercharged Energy Demystified, my 21-day energy program. That's currently $297. That expires at midnight tomorrow. So that, that's just like a bonus everybody gets. If you do the payment plan, you get access to it when your payments are complete. If you do pay in full, you get immediate access to it. And then if you join us before midnight tonight, you also get a 30-minute call with me, which is like incredible. So you can use it anytime during the program. So that could be like after 6 weeks in, it's like, oh my god, this was like resonated so much, can I do it? Or it's like, I identified a self-sabotaging behavior, I really want to work through a block with you. Or can I do a breathwork journey with you one-to-one, Linda? Like, you can use that 30-minute session however you want, for nutrition, for NLP, mindset, breathwork, whatever you want. That's like the fast action bonus if you join us today. We kick off on the 30th, Thursday the 30th. Thank you to my soulmate client who has moved her Thursday appointment so that we can do Thursday mornings. And it's just going to be incredible. And like I said at the start, what I really want is, like, aside from the weight loss, which is going to happen naturally, it's like I always say, you don't need to lose weight to be healthy. You need to be healthy to lose weight. So if you're hanging on to body fat, it's just your body has got like messed up somehow, either detoxification, either stress hormones, either thyroid stuff, whatever it is, gut health stuff. And it's just like storing that fat instead of burning it. So all we're doing is we're getting a healthy body. So it's a comprehensive women's health program. You're going to start sex hormone balances, gut health stuff. Like, we're going to do it all. It's just that weight loss becomes a happy side effect. It's almost like, I'm calling it a weight loss program because people want to look in the mirror and like feel like they've lost weight, right? But really it's a women's health program, and it's a giving you your life back program. It's the education we should have all had at 16, and it is very much an education focused one, right? So it's understanding the why, it's understanding what's going on in the body, so that it gets easier to change your habits. Because rather than being like, follow this strict thing for 3 months, and then we've ended, and then people are just like, this is why these weight loss programs don't work. Because it's like, well, they do it for 12 weeks. And they're like, what do I do after 12 weeks? Well, you'll know because you've got the education and you'll have the signs and symptoms of what different things will be affecting you. So then it'd be like, oh, this has been going on right now. Actually, I'm going to dive into this module and redo it. Did I want to say anything else really quickly? I don't think I do. I probably should have put the link in chat, but I'll put it on the email. You'll be able to find the page by my email. Unless, if I just really quickly, bear with me. Oh, sorry, guys. I just did something there I didn't mean to do. What am I doing? Chrome. I mean, we've got people here that are actually in it. So I've got it now. I'll just pop it in. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, and then the type of people that are in it, right? So just a really quick one, if you're like, oh, who's in it? Like, has everyone got loads of weight to lose? Has no one got any weight to lose? Like, what's the deal? Honestly, we've got everything in there. So we've got people who are going through the early menopause, who are on HRT. We have got people who are like, everyone looks at them and thinks they're really slim, but they just like, then they're like a stone heavier than they were when they felt at their best, and they're like, they can't fit into their clothes and they just want to like get back to who they were. That we've got people who have like a lot of weight to lose. We've got people who've got hardly any weight to lose. We've got people who literally just love fashion. I've got someone who's like, just love fashion. And actually, I just want to get back into my wardrobe because like I've got loads of real cool clothes and I can't fit in them. And then we've got other people who are like, I've got really bad habits. I want to fall pregnant late this year. I've got really bad habits and I want to kick this in the butt before I pass this on to my kids. We've got people who want more energy. We've got people who want to look different. Like we've got everything. There's so many different types. So that is that. I'm going to stop talking. Thank you for being here live. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, drop into my DMs on Instagram or hit reply to one of the emails. I've got quite a few client sessions today, but I will do my best to respond as quickly as possible. And I'm just really excited. And I hope you'll join me. Lovely. Right, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to send this replay out in case you want to make all the notes, which I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you've had enough of me for today. Let me press end record in case anyone wants to ask a question off camera.